You gave coffee to that guy with the dog, and you did it right in front of the inspector. Maddie's boss didn't even raise his voice, he didn't need to. His words cut like ice, final and merciless. You're out, Maddie. Pack your things. You're done here. 6 years of pouring her heart into Freedom Grounds Cafe in Rockford, North Carolina, gone in a heartbeat. She didn't argue, didn't let a single tear fall. Her hands trembled as she untied her apron, but she walked out with her head high. Why? Because she wasn't just breaking some petty rule, she was standing up for a veteran and his service dog. And what Maddie didn't know. Someone caught the whole thing on camera. Oh, how that little video was about to turn her world upside down. Welcome to Heartfelt Gratitude Stories, where stories of compassion light up the darkest moments. My name's Lena Myers, and I've been the morning barista at Freedom Grounds for 2 years, 5 a.m. sharp, out by 10 o'clock. Rockford's a cozy spot with a massive Marine heartbeat, just 15 minutes from Camp Barron, one of the biggest Marine Corps training bases on the East Coast. Everyone here knows a service member, most of us are one or love one. That's what made our cafe special. Not the coffee, though it was darn good, but Maddie. She wasn't just our manager, she was the soul of the place. She knew your name, your kid's birthday, when your spouse deployed. She kept this beat-up old notebook behind the register, scribbled with gems like, Mr. Collins likes extra cinnamon on top, or, Mrs. You lost her son last winter, ask how she's doing. Can you imagine someone caring that much? Every Wednesday, Maddie ran Veterans Coffee Hour, a sacred little ritual. She made sure any vet with a service dog felt right at home, no explanations needed. Her dad, a retired Marine, would roll in with his buddies, swapping war stories over black coffee and warm breakfast muffins. She'd say, this place keeps him alive, I just want to pay that forward. And pay it forward she did, until that fateful morning. It was just after 9 o'clock, a chilly Wednesday where steam danced off coffee cups like ghosts in the air. James Walker stepped in with his German Shepherd, Duke. Tall, quiet, always by the window, James didn't say much, but Duke. That loyal pup never left his side, sporting a red vest screaming, service dog. Do not pet, in bold white letters. Maddie was behind the bar, flashing him that warm smile of hers, while I wrestled the espresso machine. Everything felt normal, until he walked in. Kyle Benson, the new district health inspector, strutted through the door like he owned the place. I'd seen him once before, and trust me, once was enough. Neat suit, clipboard gripped like a loaded gun, he had that vibe of someone who loved crushing dreams. His eyes scanned the room like a hawk, then locked onto Duke. He stopped dead. This is a violation, he barked, loud enough to silence the whole cafe. James' hand shook on his cup. Maddie stepped over, cool as ever. Sir, he's a registered service dog. ADA law says he belongs here. Benson's face flared red. I don't care what kind of dog it is. You're serving food, it's unsanitary. Maddie didn't flinch. It's federal law. You can't just ignore that. Oh, but he could try. I can do whatever I want, he snapped. This cafe's getting cited and shut down unless that animal's gone. Now. James jolted to his feet, startled, Duke pressing tight against him. The room froze, you could hear the milk frother humming and nothing else. What would you do in that moment? Then Maddie said it, words I'll carry forever, I won't throw out a veteran and his service dog to make you comfortable, sir. Boom. That was her line in the sand. And right then, in front of everyone, customers, staff, even old Mr. Delaney, who's half-deaf, the regional manager, Susan Hanley, stormed up. She'd been there for a routine visit, and now she was in the thick of it. You're fired, Maddie. Clear out your locker now. Gasps ripped through the air. Silence swallowed us whole. Maddie didn't fight back, didn't break. She slipped off her apron, walked past me, and whispered, make sure James gets his coffee, okay? Then she was gone, out the side door, before her dad even showed up for Veterans Coffee Hour. I stood there, stunned. What just happened? But the Marines, they knew exactly what to do. 35 minutes later, I was wiping down the bar when a low rumble shook the place. Thunder? No way, this was deeper, alive. Boots on pavement, tires rolling slow, the windows rattled. I peeked outside, and my jaw dropped. 4 military Humvees roared into the lot, trailed by dozens of uniformed men and women. And leading them? Colonel Adam Rutledge, Camp Barron's base commander, a man who owed his life to James. Holy cow, talk about timing. His face was stone, but his eyes. They burned as they locked onto me through the glass. I couldn't even breathe. The bell jingled, but nobody moved. We were statues as those Marines marched in, boots pounding like a heartbeat. 20 of them, decked in dress blues, medals gleaming, ribbons popping, creases so sharp they could slice through the tension. Colonel Rutledge stood in the center, not tall, not loud, but man, did he shift the room. You felt it, like the air got heavier. I'd seen him at parades, but never like this, never with that fire in his gaze. He strode to the register. Is James Walker here? His voice was steady, a storm brewing beneath it. James rose slow from his booth, Duke at his side, hands trembling but steady enough to nod. Yes, sir. And then, oh, you've got to hear this, the colonel raised his hand in a slow, deliberate salute. James froze, then mirrored it, shaky but sure. Every Marine followed. The whole café saluted one man. Customers stood, breathless. Even Benson, that smug inspector, went ghost white, his clipboard slipping. Can you picture it? That quiet veteran, honored like a hero right there over coffee cups and muffin crumbs. Colonel Rutledge dropped his salute and zeroed in on Benson. You must be Mr. Benson, he said, ice in his tone. I've reviewed your report from this morning. Benson stammered, I didn't know he was, the colonel cut him off. You don't need to know who someone is to treat them with basic respect. No shout, no fuss, just truth that hit like a hammer. Benson gulped. Then the colonel turned to Susan Hanley, who'd fired Maddie not an hour ago. Your company's got a zero-tolerance policy for defying health codes, I hear. But what about when your staff upholds federal law and defends a decorated veteran? Susan squirmed. Colonel, I wasn't aware you were there. He shut her down fast. You watched it happen and fired her anyway. Right then, Maddie's dad burst in, coat still on, jaw dropping at the sea of uniforms. He spotted the colonel and froze. Colonel, he croaked, stunned. Rutledge grinned, actually grinned, and crossed over. Good to see you again, Sergeant Crane. They shook hands like brothers from the battlefield. Maddie's dad blinked, lost. What? What's going on here? The colonel's reply hit us all, we're here for your daughter. A shockwave, right through the heart. I darted to the back where Maddie was packing, staring at her name tag like it held all the answers. You still here? She asked, voice flat. Someone wants to talk to you, I said. She sighed. If it's Susan, she can save her apology. I smirked. It's not Susan. The door swung open, and there he was, Colonel Rutledge. Maddie shot up, brushing muffin crumbs off her lap like she was reporting for duty. Miss Crane, he said, soft but firm, I wanted to speak with you personally. She blinked, dazed. Sir, I've been following your work here. Veterans Coffee Hour, Service Dog Support, you've built a community that rivals the base. You didn't just serve coffee, you served us. Her throat bobbed. I was just doing what felt right. He nodded. That's why I'm offering you a job. What? Her jaw dropped. I'm starting a veteran outreach program at Camp Barron. We need someone who gets people, not just policy, someone who stands up when it matters. She gaped at me, I nodded hard. You'd be perfect, I said. She turned back, stammering, I don't know what to say. He smiled. Say yes. Outside, the buzz was growing, folks crowding the lot, snapping pics of the Humvees. Reporters showed up, someone went live on Facebook. The story was out. But the colonel wasn't done. He faced the customers. If you saw what happened this morning, submit statements. We're taking this to the state attorney. Then James stepped up, voice soft but piercing. She saved me. Maddie didn't just serve coffee, she gave me a place to breathe, where I wasn't broken. She let me be human again. Duke nudged him, sitting proud. The colonel nodded, and that moment? It's etched in my soul. 2 hours later, the cafe shut early. Maddie left with Rutledge for a Camp Barron tour, her new job waiting. Susan got dragged into a corporate huddle, and Benson. A uniformed officer escorted him out. By sunset, Rockford was buzzing. By morning, a photo of Maddie and the colonel outside the cafe had exploded online. But the real kicker? A manila envelope on her porch the next day, a handwritten note and a silver star. James had earned it, never told a soul, and now he gave it to her. Because you showed me what courage looks like, he wrote. When Maddie stepped out of the jeep at Camp Barron, the air shifted. Not the base's chaos, troops jogging, drills echoing, but the way every Marine seemed to know her. Nods, ma'ams, even smiles, they'd seen the video, watched by thousands in a day. She'd become a symbol, a barista who stood tall. Colonel Rutledge walked beside her. You've made quite an impression. She laughed, dazed. I didn't mean to. He shrugged. That's why it worked. They stepped through glass doors, flags snapping in the breeze, into a conference room with a file waiting. Have a seat, he said. She did, still reeling. Could this really be happening? Can you imagine the weight of it all? I want to be transparent with you, the colonel declared, his voice steady as he sat across from Maddie, eyes locked on hers with unwavering intent. This isn't some fluffy ceremonial title, oh no. The position I'm offering you carries real weight. Picture this, you'd be leading 3 major programs. Veteran Transition Assistance, Community Mental Health Outreach, and the Service Dog Partnership Initiative. How incredible is that? Maddie blinked, her heart racing. That's a lot, she exclaimed, barely containing the whirlwind of emotion spinning inside her. You've already been doing most of it on your own, he shot back, nodding toward a thick file on the table, proof of her tireless dedication. We've been watching Freedom Grounds closely, especially that Veterans Coffee Hour you started. Can you believe it? That little event blossomed into one of the strongest peer support hubs in the whole county. He paused, his tone softening with reverence. I read a statement from James Walker this morning. My goodness, it was honest, powerful enough to shake you to your core. Maddie's gaze dropped, her voice trembling. He's been through so much, more than anyone should bear. More than most will ever know, the colonel murmured, his voice dipping to a hushed awe. He slid a document across the table, a redacted report, stark and heavy with secrets. One section stood out, unhidden, Sergeant James Walker, Silver Star recipient, Operation Hunterfield, Kandahar Province, May 2009. Exfiltrated 3 wounded teammates under fire. Lost 3 fingers. Diagnosed PTSD Category 4. Cleared for civilian transition in 2012. Maddie read it twice, her breath catching. I had no idea, she whispered, tears prickling her eyes. How could someone carry such a burden in silence? He doesn't talk about it, not even to us, the colonel said gently. But you? He trusts Duke, his loyal service dog, and he trusts you. That afternoon, Maddie toured the facility, her heart swelling with every step. She met therapists and social workers, their faces lit with purpose, and then, oh, what a sight, a retired Navy corpsman, Chief Petty Officer Brian Stone. He strode forward with a prosthetic leg and a cane carved with an eagle's talon gripping the handle, a symbol of resilience that took her breath away. He grinned wide when he saw her. "You're the coffee lady," he boomed, shaking her hand with a warmth that melted her nerves. "Guilty as charged," she laughed, her spirit lifting. "I've had vets talk more about your cafe than their own families," he exclaimed. "You've got something rare, Miss Crane, something extraordinary. You listen. That's worth more than any degree or fancy title." He introduced her to 3 veterans waiting to be paired with dogs, and one stole her heart instantly. Amberlou, just 23, bore burn scars down her neck and arms, silent badges of courage. She hadn't spoken in 2 months, not a single word, until she saw Maddie. "I know you," Amber whispered, her voice fragile yet piercing. "You're the girl from the video." Maddie knelt beside her, her heart pounding with connection. "I'm just a regular person who made some noise, but oh, Amber, I'm so glad you're here." Amber's eyes drifted to the German shepherd at her cot. "Her name's Nova," she murmured. "They say she's mine. Do I even deserve her?" "You do." Maddie cried, her voice firm with conviction. "You absolutely do." That night, back in her apartment, Maddie couldn't sleep. How could she? She sat on her couch, staring at the silver star James had left her, nestled in a simple velvet box. No note, no fanfare, just a quiet, profound gesture that screamed honor. Her phone buzzed, jolting her from her thoughts. It was Lena. "Lena Myers," the voice chirped. "The whole town's buzzing about you. Freedom Grounds is a mess without you, total chaos. You're managing just fine." Maddie teased, though her heart ached for the familiar. "Not the same." Lena protested. "Are you coming back?" Maddie hesitated, her mind racing. She thought of the wounded, the hopeful, the ones carrying invisible scars, Amberlou, James, her father. Finally, she typed, "I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." And she meant it with every fiber of her being. But not everyone was cheering. In a dim office on the 2nd floor of the Regional Health Department, Mr. Kyle Benson hunched over a glowing screen, a half-empty coffee cup his only companion. He replayed that video, the one where he'd barked at James, where Maddie stood tall, where the colonel strode in like justice itself. "Made me look like a fool," he muttered, venom dripping from his words. A knock rattled the door, and he snapped the browser shut. "Come in." A man in a tailored gray suit stepped inside, a gold eagle pin glinting on his lapel. "I'm with Internal Affairs," he said coolly. "We need to talk about your conduct." Kyle's face drained of color. Oh, how the tables had turned. James Walker never planned to bare his soul. Speaking in front of people. Not his thing, not before the war, and definitely not after. But when Wednesday rolled around and veterans gathered at Camp Barron's new outreach center, something stirred deep within him. Maddie was there, setting out fresh coffee, wiping down the long wooden table, adjusting chairs with that familiar care. It wasn't Freedom Grounds anymore, but oh, it felt like it, and that made all the difference. The room buzzed with quiet anticipation that morning. 10 veterans sat in a loose circle, old faces, new ones, men and women, some young, some gray-haired. Amberlou sat with Nova at her feet, silent but present. James entered last, Duke padding faithfully beside him. He didn't sit, he stood, hand on Duke's collar, trembling slightly. "I don't know why I'm standing," he began, voice low and raw. "I've never talked about this out loud, ever." Maddie looked up, her eyes soft but steady, just listening, always listening. James swallowed hard. It was 2009, Kandahar, Operation Hunterfield. We were exposed when the convoy hit an IED. The Humvee behind us exploded first. He paused, the memory searing. 3 guys inside, one gone, the other two screaming. The room froze, hanging on his every word. I ran in anyway. Shrapnel tore through me, burned my hands, took 2 fingers. He clenched his scarred fist. The third guy was trapped, I pulled him out, and then, darkness. Silence gripped them all. When I woke up, they handed me a silver star, he rasped. But no one told me how to live with what I saw, or what I couldn't save. Maddie rose then, refilling the coffee pot, a quiet lifeline for him to catch his breath. He met her gaze. 2 years ago, I couldn't step into a room without flinching. Duke helped, but you, he nodded at her, voice breaking, you gave me a place to heal. You never pried, just made me feel like I mattered. Her hands froze on the coffee pot, tears welling. James sat, and Amberlou reached out, touching his arm. Thank you, she whispered, a breakthrough that hit like thunder. Later, in Colonel Ruddle's office, Maddie sat, the morning's weight clinging to her. He paced by the window, phone pressed to his ear, voice clipped. Yes, understood. No, she hasn't accepted yet, I'll talk to her. He hung up and turned. They're offering you a national role. What kind? She gasped, stunned. Director of Community Veteran Initiatives. Travel, speeches, building programs nationwide. And if I say no? She asked, voice small. You stay here, keep doing this, we'll back you either way. I didn't sign up for this, she protested, overwhelmed. No, he said firmly, but you earned it. Her eyes landed on a black and white photo on his desk, young Rutledge in muddy fatigues with 2 Marines. Can I be honest? She pleaded. Please. I don't want to be a symbol, I just want to do good work. He nodded. Maybe that's what this country needs most. That night, Maddie called her father. No answer at first, probably lost in a loud western, but he picked up. Hey, kiddo, his warm voice boomed. Settling in? Sort of. She paused. Dad, did you ever feel like you were part of something bigger? Every damn time I wore that uniform, he chuckled. Even when it was tough. Especially then. I've got a choice to make, she confessed. You'll pick the right one, he said simply, and that was that. Next morning, the outreach center was bursting. More vets than ever, drawn by James's story, some driving from 2 counties over, many never sharing their service until now. Maddie stood before them, the room alive with old wood floors, folding chairs, and walls of veteran photos with their dogs. I've been offered something huge, she announced. But honestly, nothing feels more vital than this, so I'm staying. Applause erupted. Colonel Rutledge, in the back, beamed, she was their voice now. Across town, Kyle Benson's desk held a new report, conduct unbecoming of a public officer. The storm he'd brewed was turning on him, justice at last. 3 weeks later, Camp Barron's outreach center thrived. Cars lined up before dawn every Wednesday, veterans from 3 counties with dogs, sticks, wheelchairs, and unseen burdens Maddie dubbed morning warriors. Some stayed minutes, some hours, some just sat, but they returned. Amberlou painted a sign, no rank here, just respect. The place's heartbeat. Then a letter arrived, Department of Defense seal glaring. Colonel Rutledge opened it, jaw tight. Review boards coming, he growled. 3 inspectors, targeted. Targeted? Maddie's heart sank. Kyle Benson. He nodded. He's got friends, and something to lose. 4 days later, they arrived, 2 men in suits, a woman with a cold smile, inspecting everything with silent judgment. What certifications do you have? One demanded. Kindness and consistency. Maddie shot back, unshaken. The center felt like a courtroom, vets whispering, they'll shut it down. James sat quiet, hand on Duke. But Maddie? She'd had enough. Next morning, she called everyone, vets, staff, inspectors, to a packed hall. "I know what some want you to find," she said, voice steady. "But meet who this helps, James." He stood, raw and real. "I didn't think I deserved help, but Maddie showed me I just had to accept it." One by one, they rose, veterans, scarred and strong, standing in silent power. He gestured to Amber, and can you believe it? She smiled for the first time since she'd stepped through those doors. It was a fragile, fleeting thing, but oh, it lit up the room like a sunrise after an endless night. Her misty eyes sparkled as she gave a small nod. Could she finally feel she belonged? Then, one by one, the others stood. An older vet, gripping his cane with weathered hands, rose with a quiet strength that took your breath away. A young amputee, his trembling fingers betraying his nerves but not his resolve, stood tall. And a Marine sergeant, imagine this, admitted, voice breaking, that he hadn't spoken to his kids in 6 long years until just last week, when this place gave him the courage to pick up the phone. They didn't shout or beg, they just stood there, silent and steady. And that silence? It roared louder than any speech ever could. That night, the lead inspector pulled Maddie aside for a private word. She stepped into Colonel Ruddle's office, where the colonel waited, arms crossed, his stern face giving nothing away. The inspector cleared his throat, nervous, can you imagine, and said, "We've gone through every file, talked to every soul here. What we saw today wasn't just a program, it was a community." Maddie stood there, silent, her heart thumping so loud she could barely hear him. "Miss Crane," he pressed on, "we're recommending this center as a national model. We've never seen anything like it." Relief crashed over her like a tidal wave. Can you feel that weight lifting? And for the first time that day, Colonel Rutledge cracked a smile. But wait, there was more. The inspector handed her a folder, saying, "One more thing. You're being nominated for a civilian commendation for service to national veteran welfare." Maddie opened it and, oh my God, she stopped breathing. Signed by the Secretary of Defense. What an incredible honor. The next morning, before the world even stirred, Maddie slipped into the center. In the hush of dawn, she stood before the wall of photographs, each one a life, a story, a heartbeat. With a trembling hand, she pinned a new one right in the center, James, Duke, Amber, and herself, captured in a moment of quiet triumph. Below it, a brass plaque whispered 5 simple words, "This place saved my life." Can you feel the weight of that? Those words held everything she'd poured her soul into. Then, the door creaked open. She turned, and who was it? Kyle Benson. But not the suited-up inspector she knew, no, he stood there in plain clothes, eyes sunken, shoulders drooping like a man who'd lost everything. Maddie froze. He shuffled forward, clutching a thin envelope. "I resigned," he murmured, "before they could fire me." She eyed the envelope, what could it be, and asked, "What's this?" He paused, voice thick. "A written apology. And something else, from someone you helped long ago. A name you might remember." She opened it slowly, heart racing. Inside, a photo, her, years younger, beaming beside a man in uniform outside the cafe. The note hit her like a punch, "Tell Maddie she saved me before I even knew I was lost." Tears stung her eyes as she looked up, but Kyle Benson had vanished into the morning mist. His damage, though. It wouldn't define this story. What Maddie had built wasn't just hers anymore, it belonged to every veteran who crossed that threshold. And nothing, not politics, not revenge, not fear, could ever tear that away. Then came the invitation, sealed in a navy blue envelope with the Department of Defense crest. National Veterans Leadership Conference, Washington, D.C., it read, addressed to Maddie Crane. A handwritten note at the bottom begged, "Your story has become our story. Will you come speak for all of us?" Colonel Rutledge found her in the therapy room, kneeling beside a new veteran and his golden retriever, Hope. "Another mission for you," he said, handing her the envelope with a knowing look. Maddie read it, her breath catching. Truth be told, she didn't want to go. Stages? Spotlights? She'd rather die. She was happiest pouring coffee and jotting down birthdays, not facing grand auditoriums filled with cameras and generals. But when Amber squeezed her hand and whispered, "You speak for all of us," something clicked. This wasn't about her anymore, she had to go. The conference day dawned cold and gray, DC draped in mist and marble. Maddie stood at the Capitol's base, staring up at those towering columns, her speech crumpled in her pocket. She wore a navy blazer over jeans, simple, but enough to feel brave. Then, a voice, "Need a ride, Miss Crane?" She spun around, James Walker. Dressed in full marine blues, shining like a hero, with Duke trotting beside him, tail wagging like he knew this was huge. "James," she gasped, awe bubbling up. He grinned. "The base assigned me as your escort." She laughed, nerves dancing with wonder. "You clean up nice." He smirked. "You're the one about to face the Pentagon." Her smile faded. "I'm not ready." "You are," he said, steady as a rock. They walked together through security, past flashing cameras, into the marble halls. The chamber brimmed with hundreds, service members, commanders, advocates, all waiting. On stage, a podium with her name. Maddie's hands shook. James leaned close. "Remember what you always told me?" She met his eyes. "Just be human," he said. "That's enough." She stepped up, and the room hushed. "I'm not a doctor," she began, voice quivering. "I'm not a general. I'm not anyone special, really." A pause. "I ran a little coffee shop near a Marine base. I knew every regular's order, kept a notebook with stuff like, 'Steve likes more cinnamon,' or, 'Don't ask about deployments, just smile.'" A few laughs softened the air. "But here's what I learned, veterans don't need big speeches or flawless plans. They need places where they're seen, remembered, respected." Her throat tightened. "My dad was a Marine. He came back quieter, distant. I was a kid, I didn't get PTSD. I thought he didn't love us anymore." The room stilled. "One night, I found him on the porch, holding his service pistol, staring at nothing." Gasps rippled. "I just sat with him, no words, just time. Hours later, he put it down and said, 'Thank you for not leaving.'" Tears fell freely now. "So no, I'm not a therapist or a soldier. I'm just someone who stayed, who made coffee, who listened. And I'll never stop." The applause. It shook the walls. Later, outside, the sun dipped over the Potomac. Maddie needed air. An older man stepped beside her, white beard, kind eyes behind gold-rimmed glasses. "You don't remember me?" he asked softly. She frowned. "Should I?" He handed her a yellowed photo, her, young and bright, giving a sandwich to a scruffy man outside the cafe. "That was me," he said. "You fed me every Wednesday for months." She gasped. "The green beanie guy?" He nodded. "I was homeless, cut off from my daughter for 10 years. Didn't think I deserved a second chance, until you." He pressed a silver eagle wing pin into her hand. "I wore this when I found my family again. It's yours now." Tears choked her words as he walked away. That night, in her hotel, Maddie sat on the windowsill, pin in hand. For the first time in forever, she felt quiet, not hollow, not frantic, just peaceful. Deep inside, where pain once lived, warmth bloomed, not pride, just peace. The plane landed in North Carolina that afternoon. Maddie stepped off, duffel bag in tow, the eagle pin on her blazer. She ignored the flood of messages, news, veterans, even the governor. She just wanted home, Freedom Grounds Cafe. Same creaky door, same coffee-stained counter, same cinnamon scent. Lena, at the register, jumped. You're famous now, she teased. Just here for coffee, Maddie grinned. Lena slid her a cup and whispered, you saved this place, Maddie. It lost its soul without you. Maddie looked around, new photos of Amber, James, laughing veterans. She'd changed it all. Later, she drove to her dad's fishing spot by the lake. She set the pin and his silver star on a stone. Hey, Dad, she whispered. I did it. I stayed. She closed her eyes. Now I get why you sat here, silence says it best. She left the pin facing the water. The next week, Camp Barron's Veterans Day ceremony was bursting, standing room only. Extra chairs outside, soldiers ferrying vets in golf carts, kids singing the anthem. At the heart stood a statue, a woman with a coffee cup, kneeling by a service dog. No name, just, kindness, courage, community, coffee, home. Maddie, at the back, was floored, she hadn't known. Colonel Rutledge sidled up. Time to honor the real hero. Tears welled. I didn't do anything special, she choked. Exactly, he said. As it ended, veterans placed flags by the statue. Amber gave her first speech, James and Duke posed with kids, and then, can you picture it, dozens lined up to hug Maddie, thanking her in silence. That night, she returned to the center alone. The air was warm, voices drifting from the fire pit. She faced the photo wall, now brimming, and pinned one more, her and her dad, him in uniform, her in pigtails, waving a tiny flag. Below it, her note, he served the country. I served the ones who came home. She flicked off the lights and stepped out, not alone, but wrapped in a legacy of quiet strength. The wind sighed, thank you, Maddie. Reading Maddie's story hit me like a punch to the gut. It's not just about a cafe or a job, it's about the raw, unfiltered humanity we owe to veterans who've given everything. These heroes didn't just serve, they bled, broke, and returned with scars we can't see. And Maddie? She didn't just pour coffee, she poured her soul into making them feel human again. That's not kindness, that's guts. I'm fired up because this is what community should be, standing tall for what's right, even when it costs you. Maddie lost her job defending a veteran's dignity, and that stings, but when the military rolled in, it wasn't just backup, it was a roar for respect. Her story screams we need more places where people aren't just tolerated but celebrated. Respect isn't a bumper sticker, it's action, messy and real. Sometimes it means risking it all, and yeah, it hurts. But damn, it's worth it. Maddie's courage and the veterans' loyalty. That's the heartbeat of a society I'd fight for. Anything less feels hollow. In our darkest moments, kindness finds a way, often in the stillest places. Not every helper craves applause, some just need to know they've eased a burden. And sometimes, that's enough to shift a life. Forget this tale, and it fades, but if no one retells it, history stays mute. Subscribe to Heartfelt Gratitude Stories, where justice shines, kindness endures, and no quiet heroism is lost.